seconds.
Don't do it.
Okay, yeah.
Resist. Hello. I did.
Breathing space last week.
Yeah, I took a few days. It was nice. Yeah, I didn't realize how tired I was. Like I'd been on like overdrive since December. Yeah, it was good. How about you? Were you able to get away?
Yeah, we spent 4 days in Washington.
Oh, fun.
At the White House for half a month. And then Congress spent weekly.
Oh.
And then it was all museums.
Yeah. It's so fun. It's so fun.
And just realized Nico was there as well.
Yeah. We did that 2 years ago because my son was looking at college, or 3. My son was looking at colleges. That was fun. You can. Yeah. Or if you, there's cups on the water bubbler by my office too. Yeah. Yeah.
You must have been excited about the basketball tournament.
Caitlin Clark.
She did everything she needed to do.
Women's sports are much more dynamic. Just gonna throw that on the And we were in Albany, so we got to watch.
think we have to start, Chief. About 39 people on.
All right, good evening, everybody. Calling to order
Recording in
a,
progress.
Public meeting on school choice. This is an annual responsibility of the school committee under state law that we affirmatively opt in to the state's school choice program, or that we choose not to opt into the state's school choice program. Just as a very quick summary, the school choice program allows students from other towns to attend, or would allow students from other towns to attend Newton Public Schools. And Newton Public Schools would receive some amount of compensation for the state from the state or receiving district or sending district, excuse me. It is not mandatory, but it is mandatory that every school committee vote on this on an annual basis. So for the format of the public hearing, we will take commenters both in the room and virtually. If you're in the room and you want to speak and have not signed up, there's a sign up sheet outside. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Emily will be timing you and giving you a 30-second warning. And I'm sure everyone's happy you're back, so they don't have to listen to my timer go off. There will be no response from us in this format tonight, but please understand, we do take everyone's comments into consideration, take them seriously, and you always have the opportunity to reach out to us directly, as many of you have, either by email or what?
Yep.
Would you like to?
Yep, I just have. So just by way of additional framing, thank you for clarifying the legal expectations for school choice. So while I was credited with the idea for school choice, it's not mine, it's Mass General Law, that the school committee has to vote each year whether to opt in or not into the school choice program. And we will be making a recommendation as a school team in order to advise the school committee. That doesn't mean that the school committee will necessarily follow that recommendation. My job as the school superintendent is to bring forward every potential resource there is for the school system, and the school committee has to make their decisions based on their assessment of whether those programs and resources are a fit for the system. We have been more financially challenged in recent budgets, and enrollment positions have changed. And so there are new considerations for this school choice vote. This school choice vote has happened every single year for this school system. How deep a dive the conversation is, or in this new landscape of enrollment and finances, there's certainly more to discuss now. The school committee is simultaneously looking at its portfolio of buildings and enrollment, long-range planning. So this discussion comes in the middle of that. And so it certainly should be looked at with more scrutiny. So this is not a win-lose proposition. So I just want to talk about sort of how to frame the conversation for tonight. There's no ego for me or the school committee about this decision. It's just a possible option to address identified problems within the school system. And as with any idea or initiative, there are risks and rewards inherent in the program. And the decision that lies before this governance team is to whether the potential benefits outweigh the risks. So our team needed the community to be informed in stages about the school program because it is very complex. So we had to have several meetings before this to explain what is the program and what does it entail. And we also needed to hear from the school committee about their questions to make a meaningful proposal to the school committee, which will be presented to the community on Friday through email and social media channels with specific recommendations and scenarios. And it will be discussed on May 6th by the committee. There will be a recommendation from our team to allow the school system to opt into a small pilot of school choice. So that'll come out on Friday. It would constitute about 4 students per school, K-5 only. And I just want to share that recommendation with you because since the mayor's message at the end of last week, a lot of information has been filled in by folks because we really needed our recommendation to come first, which it's coming on Friday. Just want to make sure also that people know that report will also include an updated class size chart. So how many kids per class at the enrollment level for elementary school, because there was this sort of misconception that there are crowded classes at all elementary schools. And I just want people to have the right information. We have talked at length and with our teachers at the secondary level, and we have actually made presentations in the prior budget season, presentations about high class sizes at the high school level. And we've been working to address those. So I just wanted to clarify that because we received about 30 emails about school choice today, most of them talking about class sizes at the elementary school being overcrowded. And that's substituting for the actual crowding problem, which is our secondary schools. So I just want to thank all the folks who took the time to write and those who are here to speak tonight. It's really important to have your feedback and we do read every email. So thank you for doing that. We have also been at PTO meetings and I have personally visited almost all of the schools since the end of the teacher strike. And I just wanted to report by way of framing this conversation that there's a lot of concern in terms of the manner of interaction in high conflict situations within the city. So whether it's school choice or it's talking about teacher negotiations, anytime there's passionate disagreement, it has triggered some worry on the part of our community members around things like name calling or spinning of facts to suit personal gain, repeating of false facts, attributing false motives. And the feedback is that erodes us as a community and does not help us build the sense of trust and integrity that we want as a city and school team. So as a way to recover from that, I just want to say that it's a wonderful opportunity for us here in this very brisk discussion we're going to have about school choice to model all those high trust, high integrity behaviors that the community wants to see from us, like demonstrating respect and being transparent, seeking to get better, confront reality, clarify expectations, listen first, and extend trust to everyone. So I just wanted to share that that's the feedback that our educators have given us and that our city and community partners have given us. And just to say, as I always do the school committee, we are at our best when we dissect an issue from all sides, and we do so in a collaborative way. Our job is to have this conversation in a way that serves the students of Newton and that does the best things for them. And my job as superintendent is to lead that and seek and examine every possible resource for our young people. So no matter the decision on school choice, I will do whatever is necessary to find potential resources to be explored for Newton in an open and thorough way. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nolan. Before we begin the public comment, I would just like to ask the members of the committee, without hopefully sparking a big, long discussion, this is currently scheduled for a vote on May 6th. As Dr. Nolan said, there's an analysis and recommendation that the administration will be putting forth this Friday. So that would allow a week plus to digest that. There will be a public comment session prior to our May 6th meeting, so it would allow a chance to hear from the public before there was a vote. Does the committee feel that is sufficient timing to digest and think about this and hear from constituents, or would folks prefer we have a discussion on May 6th and hold a vote until May 20th at the following meeting? Any very quick thoughts on that? Barry, go ahead.
I'm okay with the vote on the 6th.
6th. Rajiv?
Yeah, yeah. As I've emailed, the 6th would be great. We have stretched this discussion out tremendously. I actually wasn't aware there was going to be a recommendation because I don't think that's ever happened before.
Mm-hmm.
So that is news to me as of right now, that there would be a recommendation coming, yes, from the senior team at NPS to the school committee?
From the administration, yeah.
From the administration, okay. I didn't realize that, but I think a week would certainly be enough to digest that and respond. I also didn't think we'd be having this discussion in this meeting. I thought it was going to be just a public forum, and hopefully we can keep it at that.
Yeah,
going
yeah,
forward.
we're not going to debate the issue. This is just.
We started to, so that's kind of my concern is when we've had public forums before, we switch directly to the public and listen to the public, and we don't frame anything. We don't bring up the reasons behind anything. We don't have this kind of discussion ahead of time, especially in that meeting. And we seem to be doing that today, which is a surprise to me, but I would love it if we proceeded into the public forum and heard what people had to say.
Okay. Is there any members who are opposed to voting on this, keeping the vote date May 6th? All right, great. So we will,
If
please
I
go
can
ahead.
jump in, it depends a lot on the recommendation, which, and what further questions we have. So it's a little hard to know until we read that and see if there's a whole bunch of other questions.
there will be ample time for discussion on May 6th prior to a vote. I mean, I don't envision, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Dr. Nolan, I don't envision further information coming from the further information coming from the administration on this, other than, to answer, direct questions, but there's not another piece of analysis, a big picture thing coming. Is that correct?
No, we've completed all the requests that came. Remember, initially this meeting was a day later, and there was some confusion, and there was all kinds of things that happened to move the meeting around. We were going to cut this meeting short. So anyway, long story short, not ideal timing to have the recommendation May 6th, Friday versus yesterday. But it's just the way things had to work out. So happy to serve at the will of the committee, whatever they need, but all of the questions you brought us before will be answered along with all the scenarios that were requested. And you'll have those Friday. If there are additional requests for information, we can get them between Friday and the meeting, and I can present them at the 6th.
All right, so we will work under the assumption that the discussion and vote on this matter will take place at our next public meeting on May 6th. So that's clear for the public out there. All right, with that, I believe we are ready to hear from our public commenters. In the room, we have Christine Dutt, followed by Ryan Normandin. If you could please just state your name and address for the record before beginning your comment, that would be appreciated.
Good evening. My name is Christine Dutt, and my address is 13 Crescent Street, Newton. I have a 7th grader at day and a 10th grader at Newton North. I encourage the members of the Newton School Committee to continue its long-standing practice of opting out of school choice. The two potential benefits that have been suggested as the reason to opt in are more revenue for MPS and counteracting enrollment trends to fill classrooms. There's no denying that MPS needs more funding and MPS enrollment is declining. However, it would take a lot of school choice students to make a meaningful dent in the funds NPS needs. At $5,000 per student, it would take roughly 200 school choice students to bring in about $1 million, and that's roughly the enrollment at Ward Elementary. The FAQ from February 8 implies that open school choice seats may be as low as 5 students in order to preserve enrollment of all current MPS students who are children of MPS employees. $25,000 doesn't seem worth the effort and the costs known and unknown. And as a matter of principle and policy, students are not revenue sources or cost drivers. They're people and unique learners. I want to draw your attention to the following negative impact today. Not all student needs are covered by an IEP. Both high schools and the day middle school cannot absorb more students today and in the near term without a significant increase in resources to address class size and team size. Our students and staff still feel the ramifications of years of budget cuts. And MPS has not had the opportunity or the resources yet to thoughtfully restore services and programs that have been cut. As Dr. Nolan has said many times, including tonight, Newton is a fractured community. We're struggling to rebuild our community bonds after COVID, after years of hard budget choices, and after this year's strike. School choice seems like another potential point of division among Newton parents rather than a step to bring the community together. That's just what we know today. We know the stated benefits today, increased revenue and addressing declining enrollment. However, we cannot know the true costs, financial and otherwise, until after school choice students are enrolled.
You have 30 seconds.
Taking everything into account, school choice is not right for Newton. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker in the room is Ryan Normandin, followed by Margie Ross Dector, who will be remote.
Good evening. I grew up in Uxbridge, Massachusetts, graduating from Uxbridge High in 2009. As a high school senior and then as a freshman in college, I worked tirelessly to advocate for the town's approval of a new high school building to replace the previous structure which had been built during the Great Depression and has since been shuttered, given the asbestos in the walls and other dangers of disrepair. The project had previously failed twice over the decade I was a student there. Uxbridge was a much smaller, much poorer district than Newton. Instead of an operating budget of over $500 million, we had a budget of about 30 million. Instead of 12,000 students, we had about 2,000. In 2005, when I was in 8th grade, NEASC placed us on probation. After that, with the high school in danger of losing its accreditation, Uxbridge was sending 13% of its students to other schools, mostly Blackstone Valley Tech, at a cost of 1.1 million, which may not sound like a lot to Newton, but that was 3% of the district's operating budget that we were sending to other school systems. But it wasn't just money and students that we were sending away, it was investment. Those 250 students that we were losing every year represented hundreds of families that were no longer tied to Uxbridge High School. Hundreds of families to whom it no longer really mattered whether Uxbridge High crumbled or not. It was that much harder for those of us who stayed to give the students in that district what they needed and what they deserved. The school choice money associated with school choice students that I keep hearing people discuss is not free. They are money and people that are being taken from another district, usually a poorer district, that doesn't have a $500 million budget that needs them. I'm afraid of what will happen if Newton chooses to participate in school choice, and I worry that this body hasn't fully considered the ripple effects of doing so. Because our peers will notice when Newton becomes the only one to opt into school choice. And while we will undoubtedly pull lots of money and lots of students from districts that do not have the same stellar reputation that we do, we will also pull money and students from our peer districts. And I worry that in 10 years, most of our peer districts will also be opting into school choice. And when this many desirable districts with great locations and great reputations start participating in school choice, the wealthy suburban districts outside Boston will be draining millions of dollars from districts that already do not have enough. I commend the superintendent and school committee for recognizing that the solution to our budget problems is not more cutting, but more funding. But I really hope that we can solve Newton's problems without exacerbating the problems of districts like Uxbridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Margie Ross Dector, who is remote, followed by William Heck. Stephen, do you see? All right, why don't we hear from William? Oh, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Chris. My name is Margie Ross Dector, 20 Vine Street in Newton. And as you all know, I'm a former school committee member, but today I'm speaking on behalf of the board of the League of Women Voters of Newton, which is a local member of a national nonpartisan grassroots organization that strives to support and defend a healthy democracy. We believe that a democratic government should be responsive to the will of the people, which depends upon informed and active participation in government. This requires that governmental bodies protect the citizens' right to know, including giving adequate notice of proposed actions, holding open meetings, and making proposed policies and planning documents readily accessible to the public. The League has two separate and distinct roles: voter service, citizen education, and action advocacy. As is mentioned, every district in the Commonwealth is required each year to opt in or out of interdistrict school choice program. And we are here today to ask that the Newton School Committee opt out of the Newton School Choice Program for the 2024-2025 school year. The board has reviewed the actions taken to date by the Newton School Committee and the Newton Schools regarding its public outreach and engagement around this year's decision to opt into school choice, including its announcement tonight that new material will be presented not until this Friday. We do not believe that enough time or information has been given to school families and the general public to adequately evaluate the pros and cons of joining school choice. Several members of the school committee have requested to hear from the public, and the Newton community deserves to have access and input into the details around the proposed program, which will impact the city and school budgets, student services, class sizes, and the trajectory of school enrollment in the district. We respectfully request that the school committee take more time to more thoroughly review the costs and benefits of the program and to ensure members of the school community and broader community can weigh in. The league stands ready to support additional efforts around education and community engagement, and we look forward to serving as a continue to serve as a resource so that our citizenry and its representative government, the school committee, can have all the information they need to ensure Newton Schools' excellence for year to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next in the room, we have William Heck.
Good afternoon. In the interest of staying within the time limit, I have a document that I will leave, but there are some highlights and some questions that I would like to raise here tonight. My name is William Heck. I live on Oldham Road in West Newton. Having read many pages, sorted the 3,000 plus line spreadsheet and parsed every line of it, and thought about the realities on the ground, I believe there are 3 points to consider: fiscal, reasons for transfer, and managing the unknowns. The question regarding fiscal: there are additional funds awarded to the receiving district for IEPs, special ed, etc. What about a student who arrives having no previous history of an IEP, who is identified by Newton Public Schools as requiring significant evaluation, an IEP, possible special ed and/or behavioral health support? When would additional compensation kick in? Regarding reasons for transfer, can the sending district who pays for transportation, and in parens, if it is indicated at the student's IEP, close parens, limit the distance it is willing to transport the student to travel to Newton? When an interdistrict student travels here from a significant distance by family-provided transportation, what happens if the student experiences an emergency, or if the student's transportation to go home falls through? Managing the unknowns. Before the Newton School Committee votes to opt in, will it decide on a clear set of objective criteria
You have 30 seconds.
to evaluate the interdistrict experience on an annual basis, in plenty of time to make an informed public-facing decision to opt in or out of the following spring? Can the program evaluation requirement be voted on prior to the opt-in, opt-out vote? Thank you.
Thank you. And you can leave the document with our secretary, Lisa, who will have it for the public record. Lisa, were there any other commenters requesting to speak hearing? Okay. Need to vote to exit that, do we? Jill?
I would.
Okay. In that case, is there a motion to conclude the adjourn the public hearing? Rajiv?
I motion that we adjourn the public hearing.
Moved by Rajiv. Is there a second on Ping?
Yeah.
And we will do a roll call vote. Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2 is yes, Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 8,
Yes.
and Mayor Fuller.
Yes.
Okay. 9-0, we are officially adjourned now in the public hearing, and we will begin our regular school meeting. That will have its own public comment period. Sorry?
No, nobody.
Okay, perfect. We have two public commenters. Oh, just one public commenter. Okay. Somebody signed up for school choice on here. So we have one public commenter that is present in the room, and we have none virtually. That is Joe Louise Allen.
Good evening, school committee. Good evening, Mayor Fuller. Thank you for letting me speak. My name's Joe Louise Allen. I live in Newton Upper Falls. And I'm here tonight to repeat something that I have been talking about over and over again. And that is the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I don't believe that the current executives in the department are fulfilling the I of inclusion. I think that tonight you are going to see a very glossy marketing device that is beautiful. It's called the Annual Report 2024. And I was very moved at how intelligent the 3 pages are that discuss recruiting, retaining, BIPOC staff. How do you do this? Offering, I can't say all the initials, it's like COBA-esque, but one is providing funds for professional development for BIPOC faculty to go to different seminars, which aren't for free. They cost money from the district. And another one is about youth, I believe. So I believe that you are missing a huge piece of the I in inclusion. People with physical and mental disabilities, invisible disabilities, LGBTQIA, and other categories of American Asians, Pacific Islanders, Indigenous people. We're not paying attention to anti-Semitism or Islamophobia. So I think, again, I've said it before, the D diversity is doing, I would give an A+. There is nothing written about the DEI seeking staff who are not immobile, excuse me, who use mobility to get around high school or elementary or middle school. There are lots of people with master's degree in education and PhDs who are not mobile. There are lots of people with masters and PhDs who have vision challenges or hearing challenges. There are lots of other people with different disabilities or other identities, LGBTQIA. I think this district is really failing in recruiting and retaining. 30 seconds? Yep. Okay, great. People from all different walks, and that the DEI, and there's nothing, they're not hiding it. It's like we're proud of it, and we should be proud of it. This district says right on its website that the DEI department is to create positions, opportunities to get away, to move this district out of out of racist feelings. And again, I think that's terrific, and they're doing a good job. And I really wish we would fulfill the I in inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our only public commenter for tonight. So we will move on to our superintendent's report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. First up, we have our Director of Technology and Library Services, Steve Vertendi, who's usually the man behind the scenes, presenting with his team on elementary digital citizenship pilot. Yeah. I can do something else first if you need that. Ta-da!
Oh, here.
Come on up. I know.
Pull up chair.
Well, welcome, team. If you would like to just introduce yourselves to the community, and then you can get started on your presentation. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Lauren Dietz, and I'm instructional technology at the elementary level as well. I'm at Bowen, Horace Mann, Lincoln Elliott, and Zervis.
Hi, I'm Lisa Von Sans. Hi, Emily. I am a technology specialist at Memorial Spalding, Ainger, Countryside, and Ward.
Hi, I'm Jen Roy, and I'm the instructional technology specialist at Pierce. And where am I this year? Pierce, Cabot, and Bigelow.
And we have one other elementary level instructional technology specialist, Angie Galbraith, who is at elementary and at one of our middle schools, and she couldn't be here tonight. So I just want to make sure everyone was aware. There's one more folks on this team, one more person on this team. So just a quick intro. Just a reminder, I put up here on this slide just the different parts of our department of the instructional technology department and library services. And this is really, these guys are representing the instructional technology specialists, these ladies. Sorry about that. I've got to be careful with my words there. And this is the instructional side, right? So I've talked always about the instructional side of our department and the admin side. And here is our instructional side, representing the elementary level for the most part. The goals for today are really to provide you with an overview of some of the work that they have been doing at the elementary level around digital citizenship and helping students develop some digital citizenship skills. They were given, oh, there they are, there's their names. So what have we been doing, just to give you a little bit of an overview, because this isn't new. We have been doing things already in the past, and I did want to emphasize that. So our library teachers at our elementary level do lessons every year on our acceptable use policy and in our acceptable use guidelines, and they make sure that happens at the beginning of the year, and then they interweave things throughout the year as well. And then our ITSs that are sitting here, will push into classrooms at times to talk about AUP and AUG as well, as will teachers bring it in as well. However, that's kind of like a one and done thing, right? You come in, you do that, and then you may only come in as a reactionary work, right? Like, so the last bullet I have up there on the left, we do when something happens in a classroom, when there's an incident, and then they may get called in to come and help out and talk to students. We do also have grade 2 through 5 digital citizenship standalone lessons that we created that teachers can use and bring in. Again, it's not mandatory in the curriculum because it doesn't have a place in the curriculum. So it doesn't always happen on a regular basis and in ways that we would like it to. So really the challenge that we gave the 5 individuals, one who's not here, along with some members of our SEL department, our SEL interventionists, was to take a time-crunched elementary week with ITS that are spread across 3 or more schools, and find a way to provide some materials for teachers that were quick and easy to use, that can be used on a consistent basis regularly, and that provided students with some ongoing experiences with digital citizenship skills. So that was the challenge they were given. And I'm actually going to leave now and turn it over to them because they can talk about things much more clearly than I can.
Oh, I switched chairs. So we're going to move the next slide. Okay. So as we all know, students are using technology at home and at school to communicate, socialize with friends, and to do their schoolwork. And with increased tech use, there is a strong need for students to learn about being responsible digital citizens. Our project came about because we wanted to find a way to address digital citizenship skills consistently throughout the year. The goal is to empower students to protect themselves and others while using technology wisely and safely, complementing the efforts of families at home. In the past years, we have tried different ways of exposing students to these skills by providing teachers with short lessons to do once or twice over the course of the year. But as Stephen mentioned earlier, what we have found is that it's really hard to get those minutes in the classroom. Teachers are crunched for time, and often these lessons don't happen, or if they do, students might be absent and miss them altogether. This is why we decided to create these digital citizenship tech talk cards to be used on a weekly basis, which you'll hear more about in a little bit. So why? Teaching digital citizenship skills actually meets many standards. We have two sets of standards that were designed to help ensure that students are prepared for the future and equipped with essential digital skills and literacies. The first set are the ISTE standards, which are the International Society for Technology and Education. And the second set of standards are the Massachusetts Digital Literacy and Computer Science Standards, which a lot of people don't even know exist. These standards were created to equip students with the knowledge and skills necessary to navigate and succeed in an increasingly digital world. I'm proud to say that I was one of the contributors to this important set of standards that was created by a team of educators and professionals from across the state. The reason we decided to try this approach and use the Tech Talk cards throughout the year on a consistent basis is because research shows that learning in small, frequent chunks is more beneficial to retaining information rather than just one lesson that you do once a year. And so that was our motivation and our reason for getting started on this project.
So here is the timeline of where we started last spring to where we are now. It started with a joint effort of the ITS and SEL coaches looking at digital citizenship with the launch of a pilot and the Tech Talk cards in grades 1 through 5 classrooms that started in February. Near the end of this presentation, we will refer back to this timeline to update you on our next steps. So digital citizenship connects to social emotional learning, since what kids do online can and most likely will have an impact on them socially. So these skills should be taught together, sort of like a puzzle. The SEL skills that we highlight on the cards are from our CARES curriculum, and they stand for cooperation, advocacy, or sometimes you'll see assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. In 2016, the acceptable use poster you see on the left was created by the ITS and SEL coaches. This needed updating, so on the right, you'll see the poster that was created from our work this year. It is more simplified and more current than the previous one and spells out the word tech to help people remember what it stands for. So the 4 elements of this poster are take care online, be safe and kind, explore and engage responsibly, care for technology, and have a healthy media balance. So these 4 elements are explained in more detail with 4 supplemental sheets that we also created. Both the poster and the supplemental posters hang in the pilot classrooms. At the start of the pilot, teachers were instructed to introduce the poster and the details about each element with their students. Each element also connects to each Tech Talk card. And I forgot to bring up the cards. Now I'm remembering. We have a picture. Okay, the next card. So this is what the cards look like. We created 2 sets of Tech Talk questions, one for K-2 students and one for 3 to 5. And I was going to show you the cards that are in my cabinet downstairs. I can bring them back up. For the pilot, classes were utilizing the Tech Talk conversation cards about weekly to get students talking about a variety of digital citizenship topics. The cards are physical and visible in the classroom. You can see a picture of them hanging there. Most teachers are using the cards during their morning meeting for about a 5 or 10-minute discussion. Each card contains one of the elements of the digital citizenship poster. So I'm going to read one of the cards, number 1. And if you notice in the corner, there's a T, which goes back to the digital citizenship poster and refers to take care online, be safe and kind. So here's a question a teacher would pose to their students. You're playing an online game and someone you don't know starts to chat with you and ask for your personal information. What should you do? On the bottom of the card are some of the SEL attributes, responsibility and self-control, which the teacher can weave into the conversation. On the back of every card, we also have teacher tips that can help lead the discussion if a teacher needs support. Our hope in the future is to create a card set for each grade level, grades 1 through 5. Thank you, magic. We can pass them around and you can take a look at the cards. I think we did about 30 cards, 35 maybe. Okay, we can go to the next one. And you want to switch or sure. Just move this?
So there was a good amount of interest and enthusiasm in the pilot from elementary teachers, which we were excited about. After reaching out to gauge interest, 41 classroom teachers responded within one day that they were interested in participating, which is amazing in such a difficult year. Since we have materials for 18 classrooms, we did our best to spread it across schools and grade levels. Each participating teacher received a set of Tech Talk question cards with the teacher tips and the laminated posters that you saw on the other slides. While we considered digital alternatives to be able to include more classrooms in the pilot, we chose to stick with the physical cards because they're tangible reminders for teachers to use them on a regular basis. And they make it easy for them to track which topics have been covered. There's just a little checkbox in there so they can flip through and see what they've already done. Most teachers have the cards easily accessible in their meeting or reading areas to use with students whenever they have a few minutes. Thank you. A recent session in Carla Uzzle's second grade class at Memorial Spalding sparked a discussion on appropriate device usage at home. The video shows just a portion of the discussion, but we're able to see that the students are engaged and participating in the conversation about responsible digital behavior. Sure.
See if the sound works.
And action. Tech Talk number 22. You've been on your iPad for 30 minutes and your adult at home wants you to go outside, but you're about to get to the next level. What should you do? Ivy, do you want to start us off?
Maybe if you can pause the game, and go outside, and then you can go back to your game.
All right, can you call on someone else who wants to build on your idea?
Maybe ask if you could have 5 more minutes.
Maybe if you ask for 5 more minutes, could you say, because I'm so close to the next level, like give a reason why 5 more?
Feedback from participating teachers has been overwhelmingly positive. They report that students not only enjoy the discussion cards, but they actively contribute to conversations since the content is relevant in their daily lives. Go to the next one too. Notably, several caregivers shared during spring conferences with teachers that their children have initiated discussions at home about these topics after they were covered in school. These discussions cover essential skills for navigating the digital world safely and responsibly. As Lauren mentioned, we believe they can be covered in small, frequent intervals more impactfully than in just a few standalone lessons each year. By integrating digital citizenship education seamlessly into everyday classroom interactions, we're nurturing students' fluency and understanding of these concepts.
So the second part of our pilot involves the use of culturally diverse picture books to address the aspects of digital citizenship. We chose the idea of using picture books for 2 reasons. 1, to provide teachers a seamless and efficient way to initiate concise yet meaningful conversations with their students about digital citizenship and online wellness, requiring minimal preparation on the teacher's part. I think that was the key in this, is making it simple for the teachers to do. And then number 2, recognizing that in a very busy elementary school schedule, teachers always find time to incorporate engaging picture books into their day. So we thought it would be something they'd be excited to do. To get us started this year, we were able to use some PTO funding to purchase 2 sets of digital citizenship book bins. You can see them up there. One for Franklin and one for Mason Rice, and we are introducing them this month. I showed them at the Franklin staff meeting a couple weeks ago, and they were thrilled to get to try it. Each book bin contains 2 carefully selected books per grade level, one discussing media balance and one discussing another age-appropriate topic like online safety or cyberbullying. For kindergarten, both titles revolve around the theme of media balance, just more age-appropriate at that level. Accompanying each book is a discussion card featuring guiding questions and a QR code linking to a digital read aloud and some optional extension activities if the teacher chooses to do them. While these are designed primarily for independent use by the teachers, the elementary instructional technology specialists are always eager to step into the classroom and facilitate the read aloud sessions and discussions. We're all former elementary school teachers. We love getting any FaceTime with the kids and engaging with the students directly. With the Newton Schools Foundation grant, we aim to extend these book bins to every elementary school in our district. If proven effective, we envision expanding the selection of the books for each grade level, enabling more frequent use throughout the school year.
So back to the timeline. We are now in April and the digital citizenship books have launched. We have also applied for a Newton School Foundation grant to fund the materials and the books for the future. And in May, we will be surveying the pilot teachers for their feedback on the cards, which will help us create a set of cards for each grade level in grades 1 through 5. In the fall, we hope to bring these materials to all elementary classes, grade 1 through 5. Any questions?
Thank you for that presentation. It's, I think, a really relevant pilot that went on. Sounds like it was successful and kind of leads into our conversation coming soon on cell phones at schools as well. So
if I could just say 2 things, just so the public knows. So on May 6th, we are going to discuss the cell phone limitation pilot schools. There were 2 schools, Day and North, that did some pilots in that, and talk about a longer term conversation about student management of cell phones. But secondly, May 20th, the Boston College Instructional Technology Department will present on the mapping of technology use across the Newton Public Schools and trends and findings there. And it's just so important that the work that these women are doing, because young elementary students are the target audience for media literacy and digital citizenship courses long before cell phones and computers are in their hands at the middle and high school. So I just want to say thank you so much for this very creative, easy, integrated way of helping teachers to teach those skills while they do the other teaching of social emotional learning skills and literacy. So I appreciate it.
and another good example of the types of programs that NSF funds and, you know, new creative ways to go at some of these things. So thank you. All right, I will open up to the members for questions.
Just to quickly clarify, the NSF grant hasn't been approved yet. We've
Oh.
applied, so we're waiting for money. So I just want to clarify that.
Well, thank you to the PTO that gave the seed money, right?
Sorry, I apologize. Yes. If you're listening, NSF, this seems really good. All right, I'll open up to the members for questions. Tamika?
Thank you. So I definitely want to thank all of you for addressing, I'm sure, what was wondering or amusing for some folks, which was how this year impacted your survey or the pilot. And you addressed it in a very forthright, honest way. And I'm happy that the participation seems to have been very, very good. 41 teachers, I think, was the number, which is excellent. The question that I have is, have you thought about how you would like to be able to evaluate the success of the program? So building in some type of evaluative rubric or scheme for how do you, in a year from now, whenever it is, you tell me, what will that process look like to say that this is a good thing? Because hands down, I think it's smart it's simple, and it's tangible, it's tactile. So I think that's great. But how do we evaluate that it's doing a good job?
Well, I think one thing we could do, and I actually started doing this already, is to create a pre-survey and then a post-survey after we get this in. We didn't create the pre-survey before this pilot. We didn't think of that, but I think going forward, if we can bring it to more classrooms, then we would definitely do something like that.
Another idea that actually came from a 5th grade teacher that's in the pilot, because she's so excited about it, is having the students at the end of maybe in May create public service announcements that teach one of these concepts that they kind of take under their wing, and to teach the kids that are coming up to the next levels, or to show the whole school at a whole school meeting. Just a way for them to show what they've learned.
I do think it's going to be something that will be over time that you'll have to watch. I don't know if we'll see the immediate changes, but I think it's something we talk to our teachers a lot. So we know when there's issues in classrooms and when things come up. And so our hope would be that those would come down and we wouldn't hear that as much. There's always going to be something, but I think over time, by having our communication with our teachers, we'd be able to see if it's working.
We also do have questions on the youth risk behavior survey every year that track these areas. So just something, as it expands, hopefully we would see in the middle school a change in behavior or self-reported behavior.
Good, Tamika. Okay, thank you. Barry, Emily, and Rajiv on ping.
Hi, I just wanted to say this is awesome, and thank you for doing this. As someone who is in technology and has been my whole career, I still struggle to talk to my 2nd grader about it, and it's because I'm not looking at it through the lens of an educator, and there's definitely a difference in terms of how you talk about it and how I talk about it to him. So thank you for doing that. Just a comment, maybe in the future, there could be like a companion app where they could test these skills and do it in real time. Because I know for my son specifically, he can get something if you talk to him, but he really gets it if he does it. So maybe there's an opportunity for companion app, and building on that, maybe the high school kids can make it to make them productive. But I think it's awesome. Please keep doing what you're doing. This is really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Emily.
I'm so glad you guys are here. I am. The ITS staff is amazing, and you guys do an amazing work and an amazing job. So thank you. This was a wonderful presentation. I'm also seeing, although, I'm sure this is on the menu at some point, just that we're starting to coalesce around what feels like more of a district-wide holistic strategy on multiple levels with this, which is very exciting, because we are going to be talking about, there's a pilot at Day and at North, and things that are happening in the high schools, and I know in the middle schools. And to bring in our youngest digital citizens, I think is important, and starting early. So I am deeply appreciative of the work that we do, and you do, and I'm the royal we, right? You do. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens over the next couple of years and how this all coalesces, and also budget impact. I think that's going to be important going forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Emily. Rajiv.
Thank you very much. This is great. It really brings the questions down to the appropriate level for students. The 5 minutes more, I think, never goes away, right? As you have there. But that said, I have a couple of quick things. So one is in terms of the pilot. Hopefully we're able to extend the pilot and get funding for it, because it would be great to see this spread across our elementary schools. Let us know how we can help with that as a school committee. The second, piggybacking a little bit, I think, on Tamika's comment, in terms of evaluating the effectiveness, clearly the pilot has shown engagement and effectiveness. In the media, what you hear about a lot is how digital citizenship challenges really explode in middle school. right? Because of social media, cyberbullying, just tremendous negative impact that can happen. There's certainly positive impact in terms of bringing people together as well, but the challenges are pretty significant. What would be interesting, especially since we're doing this in Newton, is to get a sense of whether going through this program helps students when they get to middle school and have devices of their own. Are, do we see better behavior? Do we see safer behavior? Do they feel more confident about their ability to navigate social media and so on? I feel like that would be amazing if we can show that we're actually having that kind of impact longitudinally. Like, hey, I went through this in 3rd grade, and in 6th grade, I know not to share personal information. So something along those lines. So that's one suggestion. The other, which is a little bit of a leap, is if we're able to show the benefit from this, is it something that can be turned into an actual like curriculum module that's available or made available outside of Newton, that's owned by Newton, right? If as Barry suggested, there's a simple companion app that lets students actually respond to situations and would you do this, would you do that, and so on. And we have rigorously put together material. You already have a great start to that. Does that become the basis for a piece of curriculum that can be used elsewhere and certainly would benefit Newton in some ways? So those thoughts. Thank you. This was really good.
Just mention one detail too, since I'm on the middle school team also. I know one of our other ITS who's just middle school saw these and said, I want to do this for middle school too. And so we're kind of, I don't know that'll happen this year, but we're thinking about doing that next year, is making some cards so it continues also and is more topics that are relevant for that age level. But I love your ideas. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajiv. Anping?
Thank you. Wonderful project. And I'm thinking my 2 kids, they're adults now, but my son had ADHD. It was challenging when he started. He's 30 something and a Macintosh. I got a first Macintosh and he just played around and sometimes was frozen and I was mad and screamed at him. And I still remember my daughter was totally different. But anyway, I'm not talking about the gender difference here. I think this, I like the term digital citizenship. And I realized when I'm looking at the citizenship, the standards cover a lot of things. And it seems more than just technological stuff. And, knowledge constructor, explore real world issues, global collaborator, and multiple viewpoints. Now, these things seems way beyond just we're talking about how to use, a laptop, computer, and, what are those, logistical or technical issues. And I think possibly we should think about the problem mentioned already, faculty members, social study teachers, and science, all kind of things, how to use the knowledge, how to verify the knowledge sources, and those things should be included. So Rajiv mentioned that kind of manual book and something. I thought that would be important. The other part I'm thinking about the very important stakeholders, parents. And as Barry mentioned that as a parent, and Barry certainly has knowledge, expertise, but not many parents have the XT about technology, how to use that. And I could imagine, when I could be one of them, sometimes you yell at the kids if you spend too much time. But what they're doing there, whether they're learning or they're just fooling around, you don't know. Sometimes you just assume the kids' bad behaviors, some parents. And I think that if we're doing something more meaningful, comprehensive, parents have to be included and faculty members. And if we're doing something very nice in a handbook, something, then can share with the parents. And I'm sure some parents are dying to have some tips how to help their kids. So again, I love this citizenship, and this is very nice catch-all phrase here, but also comprehensive. So we have a lot of issues, and I hope that we'll have funding and to keep going. And middle school, high school will be more challenging. I know for sure, right? Because when you're talking about those, knowledge constructor and explore real world issues, middle school, high school, I think teachers are always talking about, hey, you have all these sources, how to use them, and whether you will verify or you will just copy and put into your own writing. So those things are a little bit more complicated. But thanks again for this wonderful efforts.
I jumped up here because I actually have two comments to make on, well, three comments to make on both Rajiv and Ping. Rajiv, the first thing they don't know it yet, but I'm going to strongly encourage them at some point in the future to present to at one of our conferences that we have for technology, MassQ probably, which is a technology conference that happens every year, to showcase this because I think it is good work that other people would want to see. On Ping, I want to give a shout out based on what you said to our library teachers, who are really our front lines in thinking about research, good sources, and doing that work in all of our schools. They start early in elementary school talking about how do you know if a source is good and how do you know if it's not, and it goes straight up through the high schools. So those are really a place where our library teachers are really on the forefront of that, as they've always have been, but now they move into the digital world, right? They're not just dealing with texts. And there was one more comment I wanted to say, which is I love the idea, and we should think about like what we can do as a companion guide for parents for these cards, right? That a teacher could actually say, hey, we're having this conversation this week. Here's a copy of what we're doing, and here's what you could do at home to support what's happening in the classroom as well. So that's something I think we can consider and figure out where it fits in as we further develop things. I'm not going to say it's going to happen overnight, but I think it can be built in at time.
Great, thank you. We all can use the help at home with managing this, I can assure you. Paul, you've had your hand up, and then Mayor Fuller. Paul is our self-described Luddite, so.
Thanks, Chris. I don't think what I have to ask about, Steve, has anything to do with the lower grades, but it might very well have something to do with fifth grade and certainly above, which is, are we thinking about the citizenship and or ethical ramifications of use of AI chat kinds of programs by students to write or help write their essays and responses to other assignments? Is that part of your overall agenda?
Yes, I'd say it's part of my overall agenda, that's for sure. Yes, so we can't avoid it. It's hard to avoid that in schools. We started that work last year. We got together a group of leaders from the high schools, really, as well as from the middle schools, to start talking about the impact of AI and what we needed to start looking at. And as a result of that work that started last year, went into the summer, we actually developed guidelines for teachers in having conversations with kids that they started with the beginning of this year. But mostly focused at the middle and high school. We're not seeing too much at the elementary level at this point, but middles and high schools are certainly dealing with it. And those guidelines sort of outlined conversations and expectations that every teacher should set with their classes at the beginning, right? So it's really the baseline. Like, let's just talk about, when do I expect you, want you, allow you, or don't allow you to use AI for your assignments? And to us, it was that initial piece was really just being really clear with students up front about those expectations. I think we still have a lot more work to do in terms of student use. I know in Amy's district, they have actually done a lot of work with actually getting students onto AI platforms. We have been a little bit more hesitant to do that. The tech director in Amy's district and I talk an awful lot, and we've actually presented at conferences together about AI. We've been a little more hesitant there. A lot of our work this year has just been around educating teachers. So we've done a lot of workshops for teachers. Every single one of the individuals up here has actually presented, I think, on AI to the elementary teachers. And in that, we incorporate things about ethics and some of the legal issues around AI and some of the limitations of AI so that teachers have that knowledge and can bring it to their classrooms as well. I'm meeting tomorrow with the high school department chairs, and we're continuing the conversation around AI. And really what I want to start doing is pushing the conversation around how do we bring more discussions and teaching about AI into the classroom. I hope to have had those conversations a little bit earlier, but we had a few interruptions this year. That's going to get not started tomorrow, but continued tomorrow to really see how we take it to the next step there. We also have We have teachers that like to use now our student management system, our student information, or no, our learning management system, which is Schoology at the secondary level, to give assessments. It's a great tool for being able to give assessments to kids where they can just do all their writing online and answer questions. But that poses problems because you potentially have access to a lot of resources. We're piloting something called Lockdown Browser right now, which will lock down Schoology so that you can only stay within the testing environment. So it works much like MCAS, where you're just stuck in one platform, just to help alleviate some of those issues. But really, to me, it's not as much about how do we prevent and stop students technologically, but what are the conversations we have with them that develop their own skills and how to decide when to use AI or not. Because that's going to be an issue when they leave us and they go to college and they have to deal with this on their own when they become adults, and have to potentially use AI and use it in a responsible way. The way we teach some of the content we have for teachers really does involve pulling a lot of headlines from the news, because there's a lot of bad cases of AI out there, including court cases that were presented with AI generated arguments that were completely false because the court cases didn't exist. And we show that to our faculty just to let them know that these are the problems with AI, right? And these are the things that we have to consider about how good it is, and its dangers, and also what its benefits can be, because it could also save you a lot of time as a teacher in developing materials, and good materials too. So there's a whole side there, and we've got to bring that to our students as well. And I think there's a ton of applications that we have not brought to our students that can help their lives as students as well, in terms of engaging them better, especially students that might need help even just starting to think about how to write a paper and not knowing where to start, getting some topic ideas, and then taking it from there on their own without AI, right? So those are just some general examples of places I need to go. And I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop now and see what other questions we have.
Thank you,
Stephen.
If I could add, I visited the new teacher seminar at South this week, and just to hear, so what are the challenges of being a first year teacher in Newton and at the high school level? And one of the teachers said that the dealing with the AI and the ChatGPT was the #1 issue for her as an English teacher, but she felt like she had the tools and the training here to detect it and do it well with the students, but that she was just sort of heartsick that she had to think of it that way. So it did come up as a big challenge, and she had been a teacher in another district for 2 years prior, and said it's just sort of exploded this year, which is what I'm hearing from my job alikes too. So good news is Steve has been out in front on the training and the team, but it's sort of blossoming with the kids now.
Great. Amy, did you want to respond to something directly there, since Steve mentioned okay, perfect.
I just wanted to say that prior to going on to sabbatical in June, Justin Reich, who's the director of Teaching Systems Lab and associate professor of comparative media studies and writing at MIT, is going to be giving a public forum about AI and its implications for teaching and learning. And I'd be happy to share information about that with members of the committee if they're interested in attending.
Great, thank you. Mayor Fuller.
Steve, keep rambling, because listening to all 5 of you, you're seeing what's so special about Newton Public Schools, where there are really thoughtful people digging in to this intersection between social and emotional, ethical, academic learning, supporting all different types of students. So it's exciting and good. And I will just note that when you passed around the Tech Talk cards, if I'm calling them the right thing, I think every single parent and caregiver K-5 would love to have a copy of that. If you feel comfortable putting them on the website, they're struggling with this. The teacher's tips are the parent caregiver tips. This is the same thing to help them. It is a constant thing whenever I'm talking to parents about, oh my gosh, what are we going to do about computers and smartphones and technology? We need help figuring out how to be good parents. And so, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Fuller. Any other questions from the committee members? Okay, thank you. I mean, this is, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Can you brand them? Put NPS on there, put Newton on there. Those don't say Newton anywhere. You need some branding. Yeah.
We may want to copyright them.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to raise money here. I see it.
And I want to also say our Newton North students actually
Oh, that's
created
right.
these cards for, we made them in Canva, but the graphics department put them together and
Neighbor.
yes.
We got,
The assignment.
tasked to do this, and she did a wonderful job.
Oh, those students should get the credit too.
Yes.
Yeah, keep that in mind.
I think,
Mika, did you have something else?
I did a quick question about, which dovetails nicely with the student labor that you were able to avail yourself of. What is the cost for doing this? I'm curious, and if I missed it somewhere, forgive me.
We didn't put the costs down, but we.
And no
we have
worries.
That information.
$6 per class.
Per
$6 per set.
Okay.
It's not very much because we
Not
use
very
the
much.
North print department.
Because
So
of
it's,
Newton.
If it's kind of free, then credit's very important to put there, right? Otherwise, it's not fair to.
All right.
Actually, I think it's $6 with all the posters.
poster and the- yeah.
So not just these, they get the big poster and 4 of the smaller ones.
And that would be per class.
Per class. It was about 6 something, 640, I think it was.
you may have to convince me that we should sell it because I'm more open to like providing materials that work well to other districts. So but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's a great
to be
creative,
marketed.
yeah, great creative, really elegant approach, and I commend you all for it. It's something that I think, like I said, we need to focus on, and you know, we're going to talk about the next steps of it with cell phones and everything else at a meeting very soon. So I'm really pleased to see that this is a focus for us. So thank you again. All right. Anything else? No. Okay.
Well, there's the annual report, but there's
Yeah,
the only-
yeah.
Mhm.
All right, our next agenda item is a discussion and vote on a policy revision for bullying prevention and intervention, policy JICFB. And Jill Murray Grady, our general counsel, will be discussing that.
This was actually presented in the last meeting. And I haven't received any questions or anything since. So if someone has any questions, it was redlined for you, and Lisa has sent basically the accepted final version of it. It was very limited. It's in the memo that accompanied it. The changes essentially just reflected the revisions to a few laws that are not major, but reflected there largely in line with the non-discrimination laws as well as our policy, and also to comply with the requirement, statutory requirement that the committee and the district review and, if necessary and appropriate, revise the bullying prevention and intervention policy and plan every 2 years. So if anyone has any questions, happy to do so.
Any questions from the members? Unping?
It's not question, it's kind of comment. When I read this again, and certainly definition and the language, you know, legalists and lawyers talk and all that, I think, I'm wondering if we are making some efforts to reach out to the parents. You know, during my tenure at school committee, I was involved in a few cases, and you know, sometimes very contentious, difficult, and I thought this could help all the parties to understand, you know, what we are talking about, whether it's you know, bully or it's racial, you know, or kind of discrimination, all that. It's very hard to define, and now this is very you know, legal language, and I think definition, and the procedures. That's also important, because when you know, some parent reach to me or other people say, hey, there's some case, what do you think? You know, there's certain things. So I think school, administrative, teachers, and the parents probably should be well informed. I don't know. I don't know if from school district perspective whether we can include that kind of things to reach out to the parents, to the community, this language, and so it's kind of public education. It's not only to inform them, but also to educate everybody involved. And I think that's important because when those things happening, it's very, very distressing. And to the impact of parents, it's very difficult. And I think, Tamika, you probably remember one case a few years back, and elementary school student, and the mom was really, really, and just sent out everywhere. So again, I think how district can help to really use this as an opportunity to educate everybody, because these kind of things do not happen that often. But when they happen to anyone, faculty, parent, this is so difficult.
Yeah, so on Ping, I just want to make sure you understand that there is the bullying prevention and intervention plan, which is significantly and has been revised. It actually had an almost complete makeover about 2 years ago to make it more user-friendly. And also when it is done, it will be rolled out to all the administrators, and annually staff are required to review it. I will, defer to Anna and administration about whether maybe there's a discussion around including the push out to parents at that time.
Yeah, and most districts on Ping do some sort of bullying community forum on a regular basis. So it's an excellent idea if that hasn't been something that has already been in play. This would be something that our new family community engagement officer, this would be the type of thing that we would be suggesting every year on a regular diet of community meetings. So we suggested a couple this year on literacy, and we did one on school safety. This is a great topic for next year. October is anti-bullying month. That's typically when people do that. It would go over these procedures so that families would know what to do if their family was confronted with such an issue.
And I would suggest, I don't know if we already have the foreign language copies, international language copies, in case those parents who come here, their first language is not English, and we have the hard copy. Okay, here is the Spanish version or Chinese version, Russian version, and share with them. Probably you could read that, and then we can have more meaningful discussion. So I know online probably, our school department has the language you can click. I don't know how reliable, how accurate, I don't know, because the Google translation, the system is certainly very advanced now, but still, I haven't tested myself, but past few years when I look at Chinese version, I always chuckle. There are always few words that could not translate and become very funny. And those legal words, when they become a funny translation, that would distort the meaning tremendously. And that could be even legal issues when someone say, hey, I read this, and what do you mean this? And then, so if I know it's costly, if you have a professional translator to do that, but this legal language, I think it's important, probably worth some investment. Again, I'm saying that because partially I was one of those parents when I was frustrated. Of course, 20 years ago, I did not go anywhere. I did not know whom to talk to. I just frustrated, fuming myself every day. But I think now time different. We should do much better work to help anyone got involved. And again, I think this is wonderful. Have this language. And now, and thank you for mentioning the family, center, parent center. And so this will be important work. We have the copies available. And then if something come up, let's, read this, review this, and to see what we can do for all of the laws, because now it's very legally defined. Not like 20 years ago, you had to guess what's about this, So again, this is a tremendous progress, and I just want to do for community doing better. And we have now more compared with 20, 30 years ago. the minority parents percentage and international parents, the first generation immigrant families percentage much more different than 30 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamika?
Thanks, Chris. So on Ping's thoughtful comments, bring to mind something that I'd like us to think about. And Jill, it's completely fair if you say you need to do some thinking and Anna as well and report back. But what I'm wondering is bullying is repeated behaviors. That's pretty clear from our definitions here. And discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, those tend to be discrete, one time or a discrete incident, right? So we know that a discrete incident can become repeated and therefore can become bullying. And so my question is, how do we, for reporting purposes, for just codifying and capturing what happens at a point in time, how are we encouraging parents and our mandatory reporters, faculty and staff to catalog those types of incidents? So a bullying incident that is by nature of it's discriminatory to some immutable characteristic. It is discrimination and harassment. Are we reporting it separately, or are we reporting it as part of that bullying protocol because it's repeated? And shouldn't,
yeah, I mean,
I guess,
this
go
is
ahead.
more of a logistical question or procedural question, I guess. We have the Office of DEI, which is tracking all of the complaints, investigations, and outcomes of anything that might fall within the non-discrimination protocol. We have to keep track of the bullying as well. Desi finally caught up with tracking it. I mean, when there's discipline that's been tracked to a code of bullying, if there's discipline, but a lot of times, you know, the young ones that's really not disciplined, or if it's not substantiated, we are keeping track of all those numbers. In terms of reports, I'm not sure. Many sometimes go parallel. What I can say is I do know our administrators, they'll take a look at the allegations and the facts as they unfold and determine if it goes one path or the other. Sometimes an incident or multiple incidents actually check all three boxes: harassment, discrimination, and bullying, and that is reflected in that investigation outcome in the report. Just gonna say one more thing. There was an example recently where there was a one-off incident that was not bullying, but then another incident happened months later, and the principal said, okay, now we're on a second incident, going back and looking, even though the first one didn't meet, you know, in my opinion, wasn't bullying because it was a one time. Now we're in a different place. So they are being accounted for in that sense. Is there a tracking system? No, but like the principal, particularly in the younger schools or the deans in the high schools, they know their students, they know what's going on. So one can be more than one turn into more than one incident. And now you're in this definition of bullying. And sometimes it doesn't meet the definition of any of those, but the behavior is not appropriate and is addressed, right? So it can go one of many ways. But in terms of data collection, all that, you can follow up. I can only tell you what I know in terms of process. I don't know the actual data.
Each school is keeping their data. And just to remind the public that the reporting of the bullying reports does not go in the student's cumulative record, but it does follow the students through their time here. So for example, if Jill and I are involved in a bullying situation in grade 5, and then we're involved again in grade 7, there's a record of that so that the parent doesn't have to start over with the going back in time and trying to figure out and unravel all of that. That was the major reason for this particular piece of legislation that came out of the South Hadley suicide of Phoebe Prince. Was that her last name? Phoebe? No, that's an actress.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, was right. Okay, so anyway, that was like decades ago now, but that was the impetus for this expectation.
Yeah, and when you say it follows, that doesn't mean every allegation or accusation follows students. And this is being spelled out even more in the revised plan because we clarified it in the discrimination protocol. People are obviously very concerned when their students on the other side of it too. Is this going to follow them around forever? I think Anna's point is largely when there's safety plans or students are being, keep an eye out, this, that, and the other. That's discussed as a student moves on grades in school to make sure that those safety plans are still in place if they need to be.
I did also just want to add that we do have an online anonymous area to file bullying complaints, and that's in compliance with this expectation as well. That is fraught with a lot of issues, as you can imagine. And sometimes there are false allegations that are made that are not substantiated. And I just want you to know that this is why we have full-time administrators, because there's so much to track down. But we also track those situations as well as try to discover, if there's some sort of abuse there. We try to discover, because false claims of bullying are also covered under the bullying legislation as something that can be brought up for discipline. So it's very complex, but the district is tracking all of those pieces in a way that we can call that information up at any time.
Any other questions? Emily?
I'd like to move that we approve the updated changes to the JICFB bullying prevention and intervention policy.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve the updated policy by Emily, seconded by Tamika. Is there further discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ward 1?
Yes.
Ward 2, yes. Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 8?
Yes.
And Mayor Fuller.
Yes.
That motion passes 9-0, and the updated policy is approved. Thank you, Jill. Our final agenda item is an overview of the annual report for 23-24.
So I'm pleased to be able to give the school committee a hard copy, and the community has a digital copy in the agenda items for this evening's meeting. Our annual report was brought to you by many participants across the district, and we are just getting started with this document in terms of giving the community a very thorough overview of the business that we are doing in the school system. I want to thank Julie McDonough, our Director of Communications, who has shepherded us through this process and created the actual document and the design of the document here. She did that in tandem with Dr. Katie Hogue, our Chief of Data. And I'd just like to thank John Paul Kanapka from Newton North's graphic design program at the high school, because this program, this piece of annual report was also done by the students up there, and helps us to do this efficiently and economically. And there's also some interns that we have in the communications and superintendent's office who have provided some of the data analysis and ideas for this project as well. So thank you to everyone who participated. Just for those who are tuning in for the first time or who don't know what this report is, this is an initial stab or a second year stab at our annual report, which would be aligned with our district goals so that you, the community, can expect a yearly report from us on how we use school budget funding and to support the schools of the goals of the district. So different from a budget report, which we have our big tome of our budget report here, talking about why we are proposing the budget that we are proposing. This would be a front piece to that document saying, here's what we did with last year's support from the community. Here are the outcomes of the goals. And it's an opportunity also to share about key programs from different sectors of the school system. It's meant to be a review of the prior year's work. So this year, 23-24, and it's a companion to the school budget document and as a pull-out front piece. The aggregate of this document and the budget document will be sent shortly by the business office to the ASBO, the National School Business Officers Association, as we try to submit for a meritorious budget designation, which is a 3-year process. By which the business office will send these materials that we've created and will receive feedback from a national organization. Just another way to try to strengthen our practice and to also build confidence with the community about the documents that we're putting out, meeting these expected standards from our professional organizations. I think the document speaks for itself in terms of what's in it. I just want to say to you that we have spent the year setting the table for the data tracking and MTSS systems, so the tiered systems of support that will actually make this a more robust document in the future. As you can see, we gave our first benchmark assessments in social emotional learning. We don't have longitudinal data to share with you yet. We did a pilot of middle school social emotional learning benchmarking. You have reading long-term benchmarking here for several years, and MCAS. In the future, you will have mathematics here from K to 8 and other common assessments that will be developed and aligned across the system, and we will report on our progress in that way. Certainly, we have a new literacy curriculum, and now that we have seen it in action, we will design the ways we would like to track the implementation of that and its effectiveness. But it coincided quite nicely with the Department of Education's first expectation that every child get an early literacy screening, and the results of which were sent to families. So we do have some nice baseline data from this year that will be reported in the subsequent versions of this document. So as I said, we're just getting started, and I just offer it for your consideration, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. And one other person that I think needs a quick thanks is our interim superintendent,
yes,
Kathy Smith, who put this document together for the first time last year. I know it was an ask of a lot of the members to have something like this that, you know, can be something that we can build on every year, to have a really robust reporting mechanism to the community, to provide the, you know, incremental transparency, and, you know, to really, you know, hopefully over the coming couple of years, we'll really hone in on what are those things that we think are the really important metrics to track through here, and then it'll be consistent, you know, provide that consistency year to year. So I think this is, you know, from my perspective, this is a huge leap forward when we first put this together last year, and you know, have improved it. And as you said, I think there's, you know, as we continue to track more things, this will just become more and more robust. So questions, comments from the members? Rajiv?
This looks good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think in line with what Chris said, we want to build upon this document every year. And I think we built upon version 1 from last year.
Yeah.
So that is really good to see. Thank you to Tom Donnellan and his team at Newton North, because they come through on this and everything else that's ever asked of them. I guess one question is, I'm planning to read through this in some detail, and to whom would we send feedback? Would it be Julie?
Please send it, send it to me, and then I'll get it to the right department to whom the feedback would be most valuable. I am certainly hungry for your feedback about what other pieces you would like to see in here. So we were having our docket meeting beforehand, and, you know, Tamika asked about the DEI compendium that's usually done. This could easily be added here as well. Right. And there are other summary reports that we would be able to do on technology, in business, and teaching and learning, English language learners. So there's a lot more we can do once we have developed and those dashboards are in play.
Absolutely. I mean, I think having more about student services would be great. I feel like we're exceptional in that area, want to continue being exceptional in that area. So that's one thing that stood out. We do talk about anti-ableism, and so that's in here, but I think there is so much more. I will certainly have feedback, but thank you. This looks good.
Please know also that this July, end of June and July, all the principals will participate in the first State of the Union data analysis as a district. So they've developed grade level templates, so elementary, middle, and high school, that all of the schools will use to report on agreed upon metrics that each of the levels have said we would like these to be the pieces that we look at together each year. In addition, we'll be cohorting the elementary groups to speak to their patterns and data analysis to their middle school receiving principal, so that there becomes vertical alignment in terms of the data trends that they are finding in student achievement in all subject areas and also social emotional needs. This will include a pretty robust student services dashboard about who's receiving what services, where, who's being referred for testing, when, by whom, who is eligible, who isn't. What are those disabilities that are people are becoming eligible for, and what are the lower level MTSS interventions that are being executed. So the data tools that we are about to contract with allow us to track those things in a very granular way. So when we're doing a literacy intervention, how many sessions are kids getting, what's working, what's not. So that's the type of information that is in our future, just a teaser there. So I'm really looking forward to getting those things launched.
Other questions, comments? Emily?
So much work put into this. Thank you so much for the work that you have put into this. And I agree with Rajiv. It is definitely a huge step up from the kernel that we started last year. So my main comment is really just thinking about who is going to be digesting this, and just making sure that it's not too there isn't too much pedagogy and jargon and just to, like, if this is for the general population, and you do an excellent job in many places trying to explain things that are very specific to the world that we all live in, but for an outsider might be more, they would need more of a, I don't even want to say like
it's a glossary,
something along those lines that will help, so that way it can be far more accessible to the general population.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? On Pink, go ahead.
It's like Amy.
Oh, Amy, sorry. I see your yellow hand there. You're next.
Thanks again for this wonderful pamphlet. And Chris, you say right. When Kathy Smith first proposed, I was so excited. I said, wow, yes, we should have this. And when she introduced other districts, that kind of report, I was so impressed. I'm glad that this is very well done, professionally done. And how long do we have for the finalization of everything? And do we have 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks to give you feedback? Or
well, this has been printed, so but you can give me feedback anytime. We're keeping an eye on what do we want this document to look like in the future.
In the future.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Because also Emily mentioned that who would be the target audience? That's important. I'm thinking probably for future years, we invite parents. I assume the parents might be the main
absolutely yes
target the audience, and in that way glossary and other things could be helpful. And here just for quick example of the survey of social emotional learning, and on page 9, 3.7. If someone look at 3.7, okay, what does it mean 3.7? Out of what range? We probably should say 1 to 5, so 3.7, even though the diagram showed the arrow, okay, in a group, but otherwise, if you look at that, well, 3.7, you want to see some further explanation. This is just one small example, but I know that any publication, it's never finished product. You always find something to improve, but
so
again,
the good news is on Ping, very shortly in a presentation from our social emotional learning department, they're going to come show you a deep dive presentation in this. At the time of this publication, this was the dashboard that was available to us because we had not done the winter benchmark. So we will do that by June 10th, and you will have a full explanation of that. So in the future, we'll have more data. This was just a snapshot of what was available at that time.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And other logistic questions. I know some people probably still like to have a hard copy. I might be one of them. You know, put on shelf, put on desk, so easy to read, and you can carry around to read. You know, if you travel. But I know it's difficult. If you print out a hard copy, you know, district had to spend money.
Right.
And you cannot sell the copy. Let's say donate, you know, $5, $3 to have a hard copy. I'm sure if you print out hard copy and put it in the principal's or the, you know, school, you know, administrator's office, and some parents will pick it if it's free, and it might go out very fast because, you know, as Chinese school, we struggle with our newsletter, you know, whether we put on a digital or with hard copies. And I know some people still like hard copies, especially with this colorful printing. Very nice then. And
we made 100 copies that we'll put in strategic locations. And obviously we would like our city government partners to have it, city council, so that they can have it as a companion to their budget books. But we are going to drop them in strategic locations.
But I assume this could cost.
It does cost, yes.
$5 probably easily.
I don't know the cost, but it's pricey.
Because you only print the probably say, you know, a few hundred copies, certainly that cost will be high.
Yeah.
One small things, I don't know if it's a little embarrassed to talk about that, but I'm being bold to talk about this. This school committee's photo looks very nice, but I feel a little bit of luxury to have our school committee photo. What about central office team staff? I like to see the photo as well, you know, with you, with, you know, assistant superintendent. Those people are doing the real work. They're on the front line. We become, you know, only nice photo. And this is probably the best school committee photo I have seen for past 7 years. I'm serious about this. Very nice. Nice then. But
you got it. We'll get a picture of us in there.
School principals, they need to have some photos too here. I'm serious about this leadership. Great. So, you know, so we can have the space and leave the space for other people.
Sure.
So, and also, unfortunately, Paul is there. Paul is not in this picture, and then probably needed some small note say he's not in this picture, because some will say, hey, you have 9 people, why only 8 people in the photo? So who's busy? I don't know. These are small technical issues. But overall, I would say this is wonderful, and I love this. I will put on my desk, you know, for quite a while and read it, and try to digest it a bit more, a lot of content. Thank you.
Thank you, Anping. And I think that your comment was a clear compliment towards Barry and Amy as the new members to really make that a better look, and not a slight at all to Cove and Kathy. Or maybe it was just the fact that Paul's not in the picture. That could be any one of those things. That was not a repeated, so it was just a mean comment, not bullying.
Council's taking issue.
Amy, please go ahead.
Hi. I have a specific suggestion for future publication. In your data presentation for the second goal, on pages 18 through 21, there's data about student achievement. And the MCAS data at the conclusion of the book has some context for comparisons for peer districts. The iReady and the AP data only presents district data. And it's hard for me to understand what, like, for instance, literacy rates below grade level in middle school means in a context beyond our school system. So I think it would be helpful to provide either, you know, peer district comps or state average comps. I'm not sure. I don't know about what iReady does and doesn't provide. I know AP, the College Board, does. So I think that would be helpful for the future. Otherwise, I echo what everybody else said. I think it's really helpful, and it's just going to be really important to do our part to point people to this resource when they have questions about what's happening in the district.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. And you bring up one of the points I was thinking about, which is probably something the committee, I think, should think about in terms of defining what our peer group is. You know, this has been a long simmering question. And, you know, I'm thinking back to prior to when I was on the committee, and, you know, you would see data come through from the schools and you would say, oh, well, you know, that's not the peer group you used over here. And what it might, you know, we're using some of the information that was presented during the strike here when we sort of adopted the NTA's preferred peer group, which, you know, I think a lot of us would say is probably not a perfect peer set, particularly in that it includes 2 regional high schools as school districts. So it's maybe something the committee should think about a little bit of, you know, should we agree on a consistent peer group? And as we present data in here, whether it's academic data, whether it's, you know, teacher compensation data, whatever it is, to say these are our peers, and we can be consistent with that through time. And, you know, when we change that peer set, then we can, you know, have a justification for doing so. Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like that idea, but I also just want to add the comment that Amy made about showing the mass average. If we could always have that, then, you know, there's potential for other committees to change what the peer groups are in the future. But if we can always keep the mass average, and then for all time, we'll have a baseline to compare it to.
Right.
Yep,
And for
fair
things
point.
like iReady, which is a benchmark assessment, they actually tend to only give like the state piece, because I wouldn't have access to like Needham's iReady data, nor do they all use the same type of benchmarking system. So I can probably get some peer districts from iReady, but they're not going to name them. They're going to say District A, District B, but we can get those state average type scenarios.
I would strongly support this, yes, for the state, because state mainly is very constant. And so this will be a very good objective comparison in a long term and short term.
Yep. And then the other comment I had was, you know, I think you articulated how you're thinking about growing out some of the academic output data. The one thing I'd love to see in here is just a section on some of the sort of logistical and operational things within MPS. And I mean, that can range from, you know, how reliable our transportation is to, you know, how many maintenance issues we're having in our buildings to, you know, HR data on, you know, filling open positions and how long that takes and things of that nature. So I think that's just one whole sort of section that I think could be helpful in the future and help us think about, you know, how well the trains are running on time.
Got it.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Tamika, go ahead.
Thanks. So I was absent for a moment. Don't know what everyone said, but I'm sure I agree with it, and I'm sure it was, you know, right on point. I will have more impactful or, you know, depthful comments after reading all of this. I'm wondering, just at a glance, is there a brag about it type section, like a section of all of the awesomes in here?
So a lot of it is, I mean, I'm trying to just report on the awesome without putting my thumb on it, because I want the public to just understand this is what we said we were going to do and this is what we did. But I do feel like it is a celebration of the completed products. But no, there's not a like bragging section.
That might be something I'd love to see, just because we have a lot to brag about, you know. So that's one thing. The other is just a full circle recognition of when you were there as the interviewee and you brought this wonderful gift for all of us from Natick to consider, a portrait of a graduate. And we all said, ooh, that looks wonderful. And here it is that we're sitting down, your first one, sitting as Newton's superintendent. I think it's wonderful. I think it's a delivery on a promise, and it's going to grow and expand and go many, many wonderful places. So thank you for this first effort.
Any other comments? All right. Well, thank you. I look forward to seeing that document continue to grow. And that concludes our business for tonight. We are adjourned.
And it's still light out.
Wow.